What does it mean to trust a uniform? Most of us never stop to question it. We see a marked patrol car slow down beside us, and we feel safer. We pass a security officer on a college campus, and we don't think twice. The badge, the vest, the vehicle. They carry a silent message that this is someone whose job is to protect us. That instinct runs deep. It is one of the most human things about us. This is a story about what happens when that instinct is weaponized. Bend, Oregon, sits along the Deschutes River in the high desert of central Oregon. It is a small, safe college town, the kind of place where people move to raise families and slow down. For the students of Central Oregon Community College, it was home. A walkable, familiar community where late nights out were a normal part of life, and the campus security car rolling slowly through the streets was a reassuring sight. On the night of July 23, 2016, a 23-year-old woman walked out into that familiar night. She would not come home, and the person responsible was someone the entire community had been trained to trust completely. Kaylee Sawyer had grown up in Bend. She was the eldest of 5 siblings, deeply connected to her family, and an enrolled member of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, a lineage she carried with quiet pride alongside her everyday life. She worked as a dental assistant and was studying at Central Oregon Community College, which sat just minutes from the apartment she shared with her boyfriend of 2 years, Cameron. She was creative in ways that felt entirely her own. She took photographs, she wrote poetry, she drew. And when she wasn't doing any of that, she was outside, snowboarding, fishing, golfing, wakeboarding. Bend gave her everything she needed, and she made full use of it. Her parents had divorced and remarried when she was young, but she was close to both of them and to her step-parents, and she had 4 younger brothers who adored her. Friends and family described her as one of the happiest people they knew, giving, social, always smiling, always making room for one more person. Her mother once said that everybody was a friend to Kaylee, even if they were a stranger. She had plans, dental school, a career, a future she was steadily and deliberately building. There was nothing uncertain about the direction of her life. On the evening of July 23, 2016, Kaylee got dressed and headed downtown to celebrate a close friend's bachelorette party. The group moved through several bars in the area near campus over the course of the evening. The drinks were flowing, everyone was dancing and singing, and by all accounts, it was a good night. At some point during the evening, Kaylee was seen dancing with a man at one of the bars. One of Cameron's friends happened to be nearby and sent Cameron a text to let him know. Just after midnight, the celebrations began winding down, and Kaylee called Cameron to come and pick her up. On her way out, she sent a message to Cameron's friend, apologizing for how the dancing might have looked. Cameron arrived and picked her up, but the apology wasn't enough to stop the argument that followed. It carried on the entire ride home. By the time they pulled into the parking lot outside their apartment complex, neither of them was ready to go inside together. Cameron got out of the car and went inside, frustrated, expecting Kaylee to follow once she had calmed down. 10 minutes later, he went back out to check on her. The passenger door was wide open. Kaylee was gone. He started searching immediately. He drove slowly up and down College Way. He sent her messages. Kaylee replied once. Her phone was about to die. Cameron wrote back, "Please don't do this. I apologize for being upset. I drove up and down College Way. I didn't see you, just come back." Her response was short. Then her phone went off completely, and she stopped responding to everyone. Cameron, her friends, her mother Julie. Every call went unanswered. Every message went unread. Cameron went to a friend's house thinking she might have walked there to cool down. She hadn't. He drove the streets again. Soon the police were called. Cameron explained the situation clearly. The argument, the parking lot, the open door, the messages that had stopped.
Hi. I'm not sure if this is quite the right number to call. Last night I got home from the bars with my girlfriend, and she got upset at me and ran off. And I chased her and wasn't able to find her, and I still haven't heard from her. Her phone's off. I called all her family, and they haven't heard from her, so I'm wondering what you recommend I do.
We can put in a call, and we can have officers or deputies look for her.
Okay.
Where was she last seen at?
College Way.
In that apartment complex?
Yes.
In a specific apartment, or?
In the parking lot. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, she was mad at me, so I walked inside and told her to come meet me, and then when she's like, calm down. And then I went back out in 10 minutes, and she was gone. And I called her a few times, and she said she was walking down the street. And then I guess she said her phone was about to die, and then I couldn't get a hold of her after that. I haven't heard from her since.
Okay. She took off on foot?
Yes.
What's her last name?
Sawyer.
First name?
Kaylee. Kaylee.
And she's got her phone with her?
She did last I saw her, but it's been dead all day, and
what's the phone
I imagine she would charge it.
Do you know what carrier it is?
It is Verizon. She has a vehicle. It's parked at her friend's house, and I've been over there and talked to her friend, and she hasn't heard from her either.
And the vehicle's still there?
Yep.
Any idea where she would go, or?
I don't know. I figured she'd go where her car was to her best friend's or her mom's, and I've been over to both. Talked to her dad, and I just haven't heard anything from anybody knowing this.
Okay. All right, we'll have an officer get in contact with you. If she gets in contact with you, they'll give us a call back.
Okay, will do.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Detectives interviewed him quickly and found nothing to suggest he was anything other than what he appeared to be, a young man who was genuinely frightened about where his girlfriend was. He was ruled out almost immediately. Shortly after, Kaylee's mother, Julie, called separately to report her daughter missing. She gave her daughter's name and description, and then mentioned something that only a mother would think to say. That Kaylee had epilepsy. She said it plainly, the way someone says something they have repeated many times before to doctors and emergency contacts.
Yes, I need to have an officer call me. My daughter is missing, and she is over 23, but she has epilepsy and some medical issues.
All right. And what is your name?
My name is Julie, Juli.
Okay. I'm going to have the officer who spoke with her boyfriend earlier give you a call, okay?
That would be awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
She wanted whoever was looking for her daughter to understand the urgency. It was a small detail, and it was quietly devastating. Within hours, Bend had mobilized. Kaylee's name and photograph spread across social media. Hundreds of volunteers came out to search, walking the streets near campus, putting up flyers, knocking on doors. Law enforcement entered her name into missing persons databases and classified her as an endangered missing person. Officers spoke to the friends she had been out with that night and tracked down the man she had been seen dancing with at the bar. He had spent a few minutes with her before she rejoined her group and left. He hadn't seen her since. Investigators attempted to trace Kaylee's phone signal. It came back pinging from multiple locations across the city of Bend, briefly raising hopes that they had something to work with. But the signal was coming from an old iPhone still registered under her Apple ID. It wasn't with her. The trail went cold before it had even begun. By Monday morning, Kaylee had not shown up for her shift at the dental clinic. She had not contacted her family. The investigation was approaching the 24-hour mark with no leads, no witnesses, and no physical evidence pointing in any direction.
Alex Biston, an unusual missing person case has hundreds of Central Oregonians concerned and on the lookout. Bend police are working to find Kaylee Sawyer, and tonight Jennifer Wade spoke with Sawyer's parents. Jen, how long has their daughter been missing?
Alex Sawyer was last seen early Sunday morning near her West Bend apartment parking lot, walking toward nearby Central Oregon Community College. Her mother says her daughter is very close to her family, and it's very unusual for them not to hear from her for 2 days. They say they are worried.
And then everything changed, from the most unexpected source imaginable. A Bend Police Department officer named Isabel Lara contacted her colleagues on Monday morning and told them she had information about her husband. Isabel did not have to make that call. She had every reason not to. She was a police officer, yes, but she was also a wife, and what she was about to set in motion would dismantle her marriage, her career, and the life she had built. She came forward anyway. That decision, made on an ordinary Monday morning, is the reason this case was ever solved.
Like when he works a graveyard like he did on Saturday night, he starts at like 3 p.m. What time? Like, does he work like a 12-hour shift or?
It's always changing.
It's always changing.
It's always unpredictable. So okay. I actually was on the point that I didn't even know when he was going to be working or not.
So what time is church on Sunday?
9 in the morning.
Okay. Are you noticing anything weird at all at this point?
So he was very quiet, like on the way to church. Wasn't saying much. This is unusual.
Mm-hmm.
At church, he was just very quiet, very withdrawn. Like he would usually like grab my hand or something. He wasn't doing that.
Her husband was Edwin Lara, 31 years old, originally from Honduras, a part-time campus security guard at Central Oregon Community College. He was devoutly religious, an active member of his church and part of the church band. To most people who encountered him, Edwin presented as unremarkable. But the people who worked alongside him at COCC had seen things that troubled them. He had spoken openly to co-workers about a fascination with dead bodies. He had shown explicit photographs and videos of himself to colleagues at work. He had told people he had previously worked as a police officer in Honduras, a claim that was false. And one female cadet had been so unsettled by his behavior that she formally refused to ride in the same patrol car as him and filed a report with the department. That report went nowhere. COCC had never conducted a national background check on Edwin Lara before hiring him. An internal audit of the campus safety department had previously identified serious concerns and recommended significant changes. Those recommendations had not been acted upon. Edwin had been given a uniform, a patrol vehicle, handcuffs, pepper spray, a ballistic vest, and a car fitted with a cage in the rear seat, equipment nearly identical to that of a sworn law enforcement officer. And nobody had looked closely enough at the man wearing it. On the night of July 23rd, Edwin had worked the graveyard shift. He came home late. Isabel noticed immediately that something felt different about him. He was withdrawn, quiet in a way that ordinary tiredness didn't explain. The next morning, they attended church together, where Edwin sat in the band and said almost nothing throughout. Later that day, he broke down. He sat beside Isabel and told her he had killed a woman. He said he had struck her accidentally with his patrol car and panicked. He said he didn't know what to do. Isabel was a trained police officer. She listened to what her husband told her, and she did not believe him.
Comes out of the room, and his eyes were all teary. That's what I'm like, what happened? Tell me what happened. What's wrong? So he sits on the sofa. I turn off the TV, and then he just says that. He's like, I kill a woman, that's what he said. So you hit her with the car, that's an accident.
Yeah.
Why? What do you mean you panic? What do you mean?
And what did he say?
He just kept saying I panic, and at that point he's already, like, he got up and he's already like going into the room and walking back and forth. And I'm not really quite understanding what he's telling me. And then I'm like, so what did you do with the body? What? And he's like, I hit her. And I'm like, and then I kept asking them, what does it got to do with you hitting her and now you panic and you hit the body?
So it didn't make sense to you?
It wasn't.
Officers went directly to the Lara home. Inside a shed on the property, they found exactly what Isabel had told them they would find: Kaylee's personal ID, her shoes, a blood-stained rock, what appeared to be a clump of Kaylee's hair. Whatever Edwin had done, it was not a car accident. Everything in that shed pointed to something deliberate and violent, and Kaylee's body was still missing. But by the time officers arrived, Edwin was already gone. He had taken Isabel's service firearm before he left. The case shifted immediately from a missing persons investigation to a manhunt. Edwin made his way to Salem, Oregon, roughly an hour and a half north of Bend. In a parking lot there, he found his next victim entirely by chance. Andrea Mays was 19 years old. She had just finished a 12-hour work shift and was sitting in her car, exhausted, about to drive home. Edwin opened the passenger door, climbed in, and pointed a gun at her. He told her to drive. For the next 2 days, Andrea Mays was his captive. She understood quickly, from the things he said and the news reports he showed her on her own phone, that he was wanted in connection with a woman who had gone missing in Bend. She understood exactly what she was dealing with, and she made a conscious decision. She was not going to fall apart. She was going to think. That night, Edwin stopped at a motel. He checked them in, telling Andrea to pretend she was his girlfriend. Inside the room, he handcuffed her to the bathroom door while he showered. He then ordered her to shower in front of him. She refused. He handcuffed her to the bed and told her to take sleeping pills. At that moment, an alarm went off on Andrea's phone. Without hesitating, she told him it was a medication reminder. She told him she had an STD and needed to take her treatment. It was a lie, told calmly and deliberately by a 19-year-old woman who was handcuffed to a bed with a murderer standing over her, fully aware of what he had already done. It worked. Edwin backed off. His behavior was growing more erratic. Convinced that law enforcement was closing in, he left the motel in the early hours of the morning. Outside another motel further south, he approached a 73-year-old man near his vehicle and tried to take his car. When the man resisted, Edwin shot him in the stomach. The man survived. Edwin fled on foot with Andrea to a nearby gas station, where he forced his way into the car of a 76-year-old woman who was traveling with her 2 young grandsons. He ordered one of the teenagers to drive at gunpoint before letting the family go and continuing south in the vehicle. The family was unharmed. During the drive south, Edwin picked up Andrea's phone and recorded a video of himself. He spoke directly to camera. He said he was sorry. He said he regretted what had happened to the girl in Central Oregon. He told Andrea to post it to Facebook. The title she was made to give it was 2 words: Murderer on the Loose. He then called his family.
Hi, everybody. I just want to say that I apologize for everything I've done. Most likely I'm going to get caught. And sorry about that girl in Central Oregon. And I just want to let family members, Andrea, that she's fine and she will be fine since so far she's been doing what I've been told to do. I used to kill that other girl, and I regret it. I regret killing her. She kept screaming.
And at 6:40 in the morning, he called 911 himself. He gave his name. He said he was the man wanted for murder in Oregon. He said he intended to turn himself in. And then, in the same breath, he asked the operator to make sure the officers who stopped him wouldn't be too rough with him, because he had asthma.
Emergency reporting.
Yes, hi. This is Edwin Lara, and I'm the guy on Interstate 5. going at high speed. I know you guys have the chopper on me already.
Yeah.
And, I just want to say I am going to turn myself in. So, I am wanted for murder in the state of Oregon.
Okay. Edwin, where are you at right now?
I have no idea.
Are you by yourself or?
No, I have someone with me. I kidnapped her in Oregon. She's innocent. Her name is Andrea. I'll let her give her last name so you can call her family, okay?
Okay.
Just give me a second.
Hello?
Yeah, hi. What's your name?
Andrea.
Andrea, what's your last name?
Maes, M-A-E-S.
Okay, are you hurt at all, Andrea?
No.
No? Okay. Do you know where you are? Let me talk to Edwin again.
But I want to ask you a favor.
Uh-huh.
So I have asthma.
You have asthma? Okay.
Yeah, so you tell them not to be too rough on me because, I can barely breathe right now.
Okay. The officer sees you, and are you able to safely stop?
Yeah, I can stop, but not right now. I just don't want to stop right here in the middle of the road, putting myself in danger and putting everybody else in danger, more in danger, I guess.
They won't. They're aware. I'll let them know they won't. But if you can stop safely, they just don't want you to run. They think you're going to run or anything.
Okay.
Edwin, do you have any weapons with you?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I do have a gun on me. I am not going to flash the gun, so you tell them not to shoot me.
Okay.
I don't want to die.
Okay, you stick by your word, though. I'll let them know.
Yeah, I'm going to let them know. Don't hurt Andrea. She's a nice girl. Don't hurt her. I'm actually calling my family just to say bye to them. So once I'm done calling all my family, then I'll turn myself in.
A California Highway Patrol officer spotted the vehicle on the interstate shortly after and attempted to pull it over. Edwin did not stop. The chase that followed reached speeds of over 100 miles per hour before he finally brought the car to a halt. Before stepping out, he recorded one last video, looked into the camera, and told Kaylee's family he was sorry for what he had done, and that in time he would tell them where her body was. He handed the phone to Andrea and stepped out of the car. Andrea was briefly detained at the scene. Within a short time, every officer present understood that she was not a suspect. She was a 19-year-old woman who had spent 2 days as the captive of a murderer and had kept herself alive through sheer presence of mind. She was released. Edwin Lara was placed in handcuffs, but Kaylee Sawyer had still not been found. Detectives brought Edwin back to Oregon and into an interrogation room. He held to the same story he had told Isabel, that he had hit Kaylee with his patrol car by accident and panicked. The detective sitting across from him didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. He spoke to Edwin the way someone speaks to a person they are genuinely trying to reach. He acknowledged the weight Edwin was carrying. He mentioned the Bible he had seen in Edwin's home. He told him that the only path forward, the only path toward anything resembling peace, was the truth. Slowly, the story began to fall apart. The detective kept returning to one specific detail: the moment Edwin had taken Kaylee's phone, before anything else had happened, before any accident, before any panic. "If you take someone's phone," he said, "you have already made a decision. You are already thinking about preventing her from calling for help. That is not panic. That is intent." Edwin sat with that for a long moment. Then he said it. "I made the decision that I had to silence her." Edwin had been on patrol in his campus security vehicle when he spotted Kaylee walking alone near College Way in the early hours of the morning. She ended up in the back seat of his patrol car, a car that looked and functioned like a police vehicle, with rear doors that could not be opened from the inside. The moment she got in, she had no way out. When she refused his demands, he strangled her until she lost consciousness. He drove her miles from campus, strangled her again, and struck her in the head with a rock. Whether Kaylee was still alive when he left her has never been definitively established.
With your family and those kinds of things, I know you got a heart that's probably pretty heavy, and you want to tell us some stuff about the vehicle accident, and that's why we're here, okay?
We have not been able to find Kaylee's body. Can you please help me find her body immediately before we start talking about anything else? The reason why I'm asking you that is I've done this a bunch of times.
I want to tell you where the body is.
Yeah.
I do.
And you know this, man.
A man wants to do a map.
Can I say the story what happened first?
Yeah, as you're drawing, please, or whatever you'd like to do.
Sir, let's do a map first.
You're doing good, Edwin. You know what? This is not easy. I mean, you might be a little bit scared. We're going to hear what you have to say. We really, really want to. I'm thankful to you. I want to say that right away, that you hear what this man has to say and that you've got a heart inside of you. And I know, because I was in your house. I saw the Bible. I know you thumb through it a lot. I see that you've tithed for months consecutively. I know you have God in your heart, okay? And that's just not a trick. That's eternal, right? You know that.
And I was going to turn south on College Way on the D4 lot. So I was going to turn south on the do not enter area there. And I didn't see her. She was wearing all black. So I was in a hurry, so it was my fault. And I wasn't expecting anybody, at that time of night. So I just turned and I didn't hit her that hard. I just bumped her with the patrol car, bumped her with the front rack. And she fell down. And at first I thought, first thing I was, I killed her, but I didn't hit her that hard. So I got off the car and she was really drunk. And then she looks at me and then she started screaming. So I panicked and I just grabbed her by the throat. She was kind of heavy, So I just grabbed her and pretty much ripped everything off her, like her clothes. I threw her in the ditch. And then I went back home and I was like, okay, they gotta find her there pretty quick. So I gotta move her and put her somewhere else.
Inside the patrol car Edwin had been driving when he fled, detectives found handwritten notes. One read, "The place I killed her is on the B12 lot." Another said simply, "I am sorry for taking her life." Officers went to a canyon area off Highway 126 east of Bend. That is where they found
Update
Kaylee.
to bring to you tonight in the disappearance of Bend resident Kaylee Sawyer. Police now say they found a body and they believe that to be Sawyer's body. Now, Edwin Lara has been arrested yesterday in connection with this. Edwin Lara is a 31-year-old Redmond resident currently employed at COCC working as a part-time campus public safety officer. We've recently learned that Lara's wife, Isabel Pons Lara, as I mentioned, is a Bend police officer who yesterday morning reported her husband's potential involvement in this.
Edwin Lara pleaded not guilty. The prosecution announced they would seek the death penalty. The case appeared strong, and then, before the trial had even begun, it suffered a blow that almost no one had anticipated. A judge ruled that Edwin's rights had been violated during his interrogation. While he was being held in custody, he had never been offered the opportunity to make phone calls. It was a procedural failure, and under the law it was sufficient. The confession was thrown out entirely. Every word Edwin had spoken in that interrogation room, the admission of intent, the full account of what he had done to Kaylee, the information that led detectives directly to her body, none of it could be used as evidence. Hours of detailed recorded confession, inadmissible. The trial that had seemed straightforward was suddenly in serious jeopardy. And for Kaylee's family, who had already endured the unimaginable, the possibility that the man responsible might escape full accountability was almost unbearable. Facing a weakened case and the real risk of a trial that could go either way, the prosecution entered into negotiations. In January 2018, Edwin changed his plea. He pleaded guilty to aggravated murder and robbery. In doing so, he avoided the possibility of a death sentence He did not plead guilty to sexual assault. The district attorney explained the decision to Kaylee's family directly. Pursuing a sexual assault conviction alongside the murder charge would complicate the trial and introduce additional opportunities for the defense to create doubt. If that doubt extended to the murder charge, the consequences would be irreversible. The family was being asked to accept an incomplete accounting of what had been done to their daughter in order to guarantee that the man responsible would never be free. They agreed, reluctantly, and with full understanding of what they were giving up. At sentencing, Edwin addressed the court and asked for forgiveness.
I've seen your pain. Today, I've seen your hate. I don't have much to say to you at this moment. I only have a single prayer. It's something I'd like to speak to whoever's willing to listen.
After Lara's speech before the court, Judge Michael Adler called Lara's actions cold-hearted beyond belief and added that Lara was fortunate that a jury would not be sentencing him to death.
God Almighty, who art in heaven, all Elohim to die. I'll ask you, please.
Kaylee's family also spoke. Words that had been carried for a long time and were finally being said in the place where they needed to be heard most. Judge Michael Adler was unambiguous. He described Edwin's actions as cold-hearted beyond belief. He told Edwin he was fortunate that a jury would not be deciding his fate. He thanked Kaylee's father and stepmother for what he called one of the most difficult letters he had ever been required to read in his career. And he credited Andrea Mays for her extraordinary courage and bravery. Edwin Lara was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder of Kaylee Sawyer. He later received a second life sentence for the kidnapping of Andrea Mays. Isabel Lara filed for divorce and resigned from the Bend Police Department shortly after Edwin's arrest. Her resignation letter was quiet and professional. She wrote that the decision had not been easy, but that she believed it was in the best interest of her future. She said nothing more than was necessary. She had already said the most important thing. On a Monday morning, when she picked up the phone and reported her own husband, knowing exactly what it would cost her. She did everything right. She deserves to be remembered for that. Kaylee's family filed a federal lawsuit against Central Oregon Community College. The argument at the center of it was straightforward. The college knew. They had received a formal report from a female cadet who refused to ride with Edwin because he frightened her. They had never conducted a national background check before placing him in a position of authority over students. Their patrol vehicles were equipped with roof lights, rear cages, and equipment that made them indistinguishable from actual police patrol cars. Their officers wore uniforms nearly identical to those of the Bend Police Department. An internal audit had identified serious problems and recommended reform. Nothing had been done. In 2020, Central Oregon Community College settled with Kaylee's family for $2 million. On May 25, 2019, Oregon Governor Kate Brown signed Senate Bill 576 into law. It is known as Kaylee's Law. Campus security vehicles in Oregon are now prohibited from carrying rooftop lights or cage dividers. Officers must have GPS systems and interior recording cameras. They are prohibited from conducting vehicle stops or stop-and-frisk actions. National background checks and psychological evaluations are mandatory before any campus security officer is hired. The law carries Kaylee's name because her family refused to let the failures that killed her go unreformed. Kaylee's family also created KK readers, KK being the nickname those closest to her had always used. The program donates copies of Oh, the Places You'll Go to Head Start and preschool classes across Central Oregon. It was Kaylee's favorite book as a child. It was the book that first inspired her to write her own stories and her own poetry. Through it, she continues to reach children she never had the chance to meet. Kaylee Sawyer trusted what she had been taught to trust. She saw a marked patrol vehicle and a security officer, and she made the same reasonable assumption that any person would make. She did nothing wrong. The failure was not hers. It was built into the vehicles, the uniforms, the hiring processes, and the audits that were filed and then set aside. It was institutional, and it was entirely preventable. Kaylee's law exists because her family looked at that failure and decided it could not stand unchanged. Her mother, Julie, said it best. The moment I held her, I understood what love at first sight meant, and that it is real. She will continue to live on in all the memories that are shared. She had an amazing 23 years, and I want that to be remembered. Thank you for watching. If you want to support the channel, consider subscribing and joining our community.